We are going to dive into this set of unnerving phone calls and explore the horrifying backstories behind these horrifying audio clips, starting with one of the most traumatic phone calls of Travis the Chimp's rampage. For context, Travis the Chimp was born inside of a chimpanzee sanctuary on October the 21st, 1995. Travis was then taken by his mother by tranquilizing her, to then be adopted with the Heralds, Jerome and Sandra, for the price of $50,000. And the problem started with trying to raise a chimpanzee as a human, being given poor quality foods like frozen meals, desserts, wine, etc., leaving him to unfortunately abandon his animal roots and adapt into a human society. But I bet to everyone's shock and surprise, Travis's behavior started to escalate. One instance being when a passing car threw an empty soda can at him, causing him to jump out of the car and pursue the others. This incident caused a traffic jam, the arrival of multiple police officers, and a bitter taste for the general public, ending with tranquilizing Travis and putting him back into the car. And the behavior only proceeded to worsen, especially after the passing of Mr. Harold, showing signs of aggression and unpredictability. And instead of providing the necessary solutions to help this exotic animal, they just provided Travis with drugs, Xanax specifically, to keep him calm and relaxed. However, that wouldn't be enough to prevent the tragedy that occurred on February 16, 2009. That day, Sandra was looking after Travis, but in a sudden fit of rage, he grabbed the keys and proceeded to walk to the car. Not being able to control Travis, Sandra called her best friend, Charla, to come help bring Travis back inside. Trying to pull Travis back inside was not working in the slightest, and upon Charla's arrival, the chimp's anger only intensified. Holding Travis's favorite toy, a Tickle Me Elmo, his rage was pinpointed at her, causing him to attack and go berserk on Charla. And Sandra was in a state of shock, watching the flesh of her best friend's face being ripped out of her by the once loving animal she's nurtured for almost 15 years. And the only thing she could do was to plead with the dispatcher for help.
Stand for 911, where's your emergency?
Oh, this is Sandy. 231 Rock Crimin Road.
What's the
Send
problem?
the police. Send the police.
What's the problem there?
The chimp killed my friend.
What's the problem with your friend?
Oh, please.
What's the problem with your friend? I need to know.
Send the police up with a gun.
Sandra hit Travis in the head with a metal shovel and even stabbed him in the back with a kitchen knife, but that did not stop him from ripping the fingers and nose off from Charla's body. The police then arrived onto the scene, causing Travis's attention to be locked on them. Rushing to the driver's door, an officer shot him 4 times into the body, causing him to flee away. Charla's now mutilated body was rescued by the medical team for intensive surgery, while the officers followed the blood trail to find Travis next to his cage, lifeless from all the blood loss. The situation ended with a poor animal being killed and left an innocent woman permanently blinded, in addition to her face bone structure being deformed. And it could have been all prevented if they didn't try to treat an animal like a human. The day we'll never forget, on 11 September 2001, marked a pivotal moment in modern day history, as it was one of the biggest tragedies to occur to date. Most of the tragedy was filmed by reporters, showing the pure fear, anxiety, and dread of people watching everything crumble before their eyes. Despite knowing that hundreds of people were trapped in the towers, some of them have not heard or are completely unaware of the final recordings of the victims pleading for help, and I want to call attention to this specific one. Kevin Cosgrove was a 46-year-old man who was one of the victims trapped inside of the towers during the terrorist attack and was located on the northwest corners of the South Tower. Once he saw and heard the destruction around him, he dialed for 911 at 9:53 am. The call started with providing the location about his whereabouts to the dispatcher, and then revealed that there was also 2 people with him, Douglas Cherry, and the other one was undetermined. The dispatcher continued talking patiently to calm Kevin down and reassured them that help was on the way to rescue them. But understandingly, emotions from Kevin started to come out and restating that he and the others were on the 105th floor as he needed to get help ASAP. The smoking condition made the situation more difficult, especially because of them being on one of the highest levels and that he was barely able to breathe. And then Kevin told his operator this.
Yeah, my wife thinks I'm alright. I called her and said I was leaving the building, I was fine, and bang!
Kevin continued to answer that they were overlooking the center and that there were 2 broken windows. Suddenly, the situation drastically turned to the worse as rumbling sounds could be heard through the core leading to the building to collapse. Those were the last recordings of Kevin Cosgrove ever being alive, and it is absolutely devastating to think about how he must have felt and thought during his final moments alive. Kevin's remains were later found underneath the rubble and was buried on the 22nd at St. Patrick Catholic Cemetery and is now resting peacefully. The devastating 911 call of Ruth Price is one of the most popular and devastating ones on the internet due to its discomfort and the large online debate of thinking the situation was in fact real or fake. The start of the call begins with Ruth identifying herself and stating her location of 3877 to then be abruptly cut by the dispatcher asking about what was happening.
This is Ruth Price of 3877. What's the problem, ma'am?
A man was scoping around her apartment, saying to Ruth that he was looking for someone or a specific apartment. She then reinforces that she is an elderly lady who lives alone with no contact and has no idea of the location of the man outside. Only pure static could be heard after that statement, but in only a span of a few seconds, the situation severely took a turn for the worse.
Where is he now, ma'am? I don't have no idea.
People like myself assumed the worst, that the robber sadly killed Ruth, and then people ran with that stories for years. But it wasn't until a post on Reddit, created by the fellow Redditor, Far Valuable 5819, about how they listened to a podcast of the event and went through newspaper archives to see if any story matched up with the phone call. There were a few newspaper articles from the 1980s that revealed that the police had been looking for a youth, the man outside of the house, as he tried to strangle a 76-year-old woman, Ruth M. Price, confirming that this was real. The situation had a happier ending, as after Ruth dropped the phone, she was able to break free from the man's grip, causing the robber to run away. Ruth managed to survive the event, but sadly passed away 14 years later in 1990. The call was truly terrifying when first hearing it, but also found it so cool that Ruth, especially at her age, not only didn't get killed, but also managed to fight back and scare her attacker to flee, showing how the elderly can still fuck shit up. This caller is a little girl named Nicky, probably no more than 10 years old, after discovering that her brother has shot himself, leading her to call and have an intense and emotional conversation with the dispatcher.
Help me, my brother's dead! What's your name? Nicky. What do you mean by your brother's dead? He killed himself! How did he do it? With a gun!
Nicky, while being heavily emotional, still managed to provide the necessary details to the dispatcher to get help. However, she could only stay so calm as long as she could.
Just Nicky, I've got help on the way.
It then led to the father coming, taking the hold of the phone, and then continuing the conversation with the dispatcher, replying that help was on the way. The audio content was then posted for a suicide intervention training and showed to the world about how it would affect everyone in the situation, those who pull the trigger and those who they leave behind. This is truly heart-wrenching, hearing her say, and thinking about how the father felt seeing his son dead and daughter traumatized will make you feel empty. May her and her family receive all the blessings that life has to offer. This was by far the most distressing video I've ever done so far, and I'm still in fucking disbelief and sorry for all these victims everywhere.